everyone. Welcome to our session. I'm Danny Anko. I'm a data scientist with AWS, and it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker, David Smith. He's the co-founder, CEO, and managing director of Cirrus Tag, and he's going to talk to us today about how people get connected with animals through a satellite connection. And also going to tell us how AWS is helping with data management and security and database for his business use case. David.
Thank you, Dan. It's nice to be here. My name's David Smith and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cirrus Tag. We're connecting people with animals. We started this journey back in 2016. We wanted to improve animal welfare, we wanted to improve the way in which animals utilise their land, and we wanted to improve traceability. On our own operations, we actually had some stock theft happening as well, so we wanted to fix that. But one of the first things we needed and knew that we had to develop on was a great platform, and we had to do it via satellite. And hence we started out our journey working with production animals directly to satellite. So I'm going to play a little video straight away to get us in the mood for how we got started and where we're building from today.
Cirrus Tag is a world-first direct-to-satellite smart ear tag for livestock, monitoring individual animal welfare, behaviour and traceability and provenance. Cirrus Tag is going to allow people to move to a level of precision animal management that they've previously never experienced. We're going to have access to data that previously has been the realm of large John Deere machines in broadacre cropping applications. No one person is going to get the same from the tag as anyone else. Everyone is going to be tackling different problems and challenges based on what kind of production system they're operating. The tag actually communicates in two different ways. On one hand, it's being very economical and only transmitting routine satellite packets every 3 to 4 hours. But on the other hand, it's able to alert you in real time when you need that information most if something is wrong with an individual animal. We're able to remove all those barriers to entry and adoption. People can simply purchase a small number of tags, apply them to their animals, and without any other hardware, the data will be flowing in under an hour.
So we're happy to say we're the world's first direct-to-satellite livestock monitoring platform. And it's because of AWS that we're able to build a solid platform that could bring together multiple different parties from not just the customer, but also the manufacturing, our data, our customers, all coming together. We're connecting people with animals. Now, we started in livestock, but soon we'd sold some tags to Africa. We received some photos back with a tag in a giraffe's ear. And we realised then that we'd extended and transcended into a wildlife monitoring platform as well. And we're making big inroads into helping people with research and conservation, saving some of those incredible animals. By mid-next year, we'll also have a pet platform, which will be the most sophisticated monitoring of animals, and we're working on both the human and the animal side for the experience of that, and we'll be finishing the presentation with a bit about that as well. But today we're going to primarily focus at the production animal side. So we developed initially Cirrus Trace, which is a twin-pin ear tag. Hopefully you can see that. Twin-pin ear tag. So once it goes on the animal, it doesn't come off. So we have that full lifetime traceability from paddock to plate. So people like retailers, processors, banks, financial institutions, etc., want that one. We realised that Well, who's going to buy the tag to start with? It's probably the rancher. So the rancher said to us, well, I got no problem. I need all that information. I want to utilize my land better. I want to know more about my animals, but I want the tag back before it goes on to the next party. So not commonly known, but in the beef industry, as an example, there are multiple owners of the animal. There's the breeder, there's the backgrounder who gets the animals a bit bigger, there's the feedlots, and then finally the processor or packer who then takes it to the retailer, and it's where you see the beef that you buy in the shop. With this one, as it leaves the property, they could cut it off with that plastic bit at the top, and we could actually utilize it on a different animal. So today we'll talk primarily about the production animal. We'll finish with a little bit on the wildlife side and the pet side. So when we started out this journey, we were looking at the mega trends that we wanted to face. So there was traceability, animal welfare, of course, conservation, extinction. So we wanted to reduce the number of animals becoming extinct by utilizing this technology. But one of the things that we actually created was the world's first automated, real-time alert, unlimited range sickness detection and contact tracing platform for biosecurity. How important is that? We get a disease like foot and mouth disease, one of the most contagious animal diseases in the world, comes in, and we can actually detect when the animal is sick so that you can manage, isolate, treat, and where necessary, eradicate the animal and the disease as a consequence. No other group can do that automated and with unlimited range. So the automation and the machine learning, the edge computing that these tags hold is never been seen before anywhere for this particular purpose. We also want to improve the way in which animals move across the land, the way they utilize the land, and in so being, create a more sustainable production environment so that we can care more for the land. In fact, we can improve the natural capital and the grasses in which it grows on the land as well, just from being able to control the animals and the way they move across that. Those insights and the ability to put on algorithms onto the tag due to the machine learning, we can use things like pasture feed intake or feed efficiency to determine the amount of use of the land as well. We wanted to improve the asset management, not just for finance and insurance, but also for securitization, knowing where the animals are, how many, and what condition they're in. We're able to determine a whole lot of insights. Those insights also help us when someone actually tries to steal our animal, we can detect that too. So it looks a bit funny when there's one heading on the road at a very fast speed. So we can detect all of those things too. But due to AWS and the open sort of platform and arrangement and structure that we're able to create this Ceres tag, we're able to be interoperable. So what does that mean? Interoperable means that we actually are an open platform and we integrate with other systems as well. So we actually don't have our own end user software platform. We actually integrate into many of them. And there are lots of them that provide different things like satellite imagery, blockchain, just basic property management. We'll go through some of those as well. So how does the tag work? Well, the tag naturally has GPS. That's what we've been talking about, the tracking side of things. It also has RFID. So in a lot of countries, there's mandatory identification of animals. And with that, they use an RFID system. Now, we can be a transformational technology as well, where we can take the old of the RFID and have that in the tag, and while we're moving across to this more advanced way to be able to monitor the animals. The accelerometer combined with the machine learning and edge computing allows us the ability to add new algorithms, to detect new things, to do that calculation, that edge computing on the actual tag, and then send that via satellite. It also has ambient temperature and Bluetooth. And the Bluetooth is used for proximity, but it's also used for interaction with other equipment as well. So we're combining lots of different data sets, able to do so through the platform that we've created with AWS. So the tag arrives at your door, you've bought it online, arrives at your door, you go out, you put it on the animal, within an hour, it's sending directly to satellite. Never been done before. World first. You would think it's something so simple it would be happening, but it's not. Part of it is the energy management and the way in which we've done that with our technology partners. From the satellite, the data gets sent to our data platform, and from there, we push it out to the customer's choice of software. And again, depending on where they fit in the supply chain, where they fit in the environment they're operating, they will use all different types of software, which is the reason why we didn't produce our own software. Instead, we chose to integrate with all of the industry softwares. So direct to satellite, why is that so significant? We don't need any infrastructure, none. Plug and play. So people can buy this, put it straight on the animal, and it works. We don't have to set up towers, which is money, which is time. All of that is instantly gone away. Nice and simple. The activity it's monitoring and the real-time alerts allows us to do that biosecurity, that full traceability, but also data security, which is where AWS kicks in again. That data security is paramount to what we're doing because we're talking about people's assets here. Now, we can't do all of this by ourselves, of course. As I said, we've integrated with a whole range of people, from satellite providers, industry players or organisers, manufacturers, government authorities, and you can see there on the bottom right-hand side some of our software parties as well, like SIBO Labs, Mappepedia, AgLive. They're all doing things with data that was previously not being able to be done. So let's look at some of the architecture of these slides. We use things like Lambda for rapid decision making, and we use things like container services to be able to expand the platform using availability zones and load balancing side of things. We use SQS for messaging, Amazon SQS for messaging to our customers and also to other industry participants. And we use the cloud so that the customers can access their data directly. So let's look at a little bit more detail. You can see at the bottom of the type of animals in which have been tagged with the Ceres tag so far. We create the data with the tags. We move that to the satellite. Now we use Globalstar satellites. They're the same satellites that iPhone 14 are using, the Apple iPhone 14 are using for their emergency services. From the satellites, the low Earth orbit satellites, the data is sent to the nearest ground station where it's actually then transferred into our IoT data provider, which is a group called Eratos. Here you can see the load balancing and the availability zone. So we're able to expand and contract no matter where that data is coming in from around the world to suit the purpose in which we need for the monitoring of those animals. The IoT provider has now moved the data to our, what we call the Ceres portal, and the Ceres portal accepts or has the data encrypted at rest. So from there, we're able to combine that data with the manufacturer's data, the customer's data, the software integrations, and then move that so that we can send real-time data to the actual owners of the animals. So let's summarize that. So data is created at the animal into our Ceres portal, and from there we're able to shift that data directly to the customer, but also we're able to use that data for third party. So there might be researchers looking to improve animal welfare or behaviour, or there might be animal pharma companies looking to spend the next $1 billion on a new vaccine, or all sorts of different parties that could utilise that data. On the right-hand side, you can see who our customers are. People think they're just the ranchers, but it's much more. So we have the producers or the ranchers. We have supply chain people. So again, there are people at the breeder, background, feedlot, and packer situation. Finance, insurance, government, and you'll see an example a little bit later of a government that's actually utilising this data and how they want to move forward with it. Conservationists, of course, third-party suppliers like service providers that want to provide services to help the ranchers or different parties along the supply chain. And of course, the animal farmer and vets. So the benefits: improved animal welfare and insights, things like biosecurity, sickness detection. Alerts when wandering. Well, it doesn't have to be complex. The alerts when wandering is maybe you have a wayward animal that likes to jump the fence and you want to know about it when that happens. Or you might have a storm where a tree has been knocked down and pushed over one of your fences. And when that happens, we can send an alert when they're outside a geofence boundary. But of course, sometimes it's an intentional removal of the animal. So we can mitigate those stock thefts, and I'll show you a little video later of what we've been doing in that space as well. Improved operational efficiency, or mustering as we call it, which is the rounding up of the animals. Now with fuel prices, equipment shortages, people shortages, safety concerns, compliance, all these things, the efficiency that the tag can provide by providing that real-time data is imperative for the future of our operations, and being able to ensure low-priced food is available for everyone. Improved pasture utilisation, understanding your land use. So the animals are moving around on the land all the time. We want to know where they're moving so that we can actually make sure that we're using all of the land, not just some of the land, because animals have a habit of just staying in the sweetest pastures. And that'll improve our whole sustainability, our ESG reporting. Reporting of the behaviour traits. This is where things like pasture feed intake, being able to measure the amount of dry matter an animal is eating and compare that to the amount of weight that it's gaining, we're able to determine which animals that we would like to genetically breed with, because that increase in weight faster allows us to breed animals that have that phenotype that will make you more profit. So it's incredibly important for those behaviour traits. The data farming, so understanding again with the regeneration of the grasses, we can improve soil carbon. And we can claim carbon credits from the sequestration of the grasses as well. Asset register. Well, compliance and regulatory requirements are just becoming more and more important, and we need real data. Things like ESG reporting is where we can actually add a lot of value, and having all of that automated so that it's just coming into a central platform. And of course, if we can increase the accessibility for financing, we can drive more profitability for the ranchers. And of course, where insurance previously wasn't available, we may be able to allow that as well. Now, biosecurity is something that we take extremely importantly at Ceres Tag. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's happening in Australia, and then you can reflect on that here as well. So that top right-hand corner is foot and mouth disease. That's in Indonesia right now. It's out of control. It's spreading very rapidly. And for those who know their geography, Indonesia is only just to the north, and it's actually a major live export destination for Australian cattle. Now, if foot and mouth disease jumps across to Australia, and that could happen accidentally, naturally, or worst case, intentionally, that's a $100 billion disaster. 70% of the beef produced in Australia is export. Our export depends on being disease-free. So to have that come into Australia, and to give you an idea of how devastating this disease is, it's like the third most for animals, I believe. If it comes in, just in Queensland, my home state alone, does 6 million movements of animals every year. So you can imagine how quickly it would spread. When foot and mouth comes into a country, you have ground zero, where it's come in, or any animal that's detected, 10-kilometre radius, and everything is gone. So it might be your neighbour's neighbour's neighbour who have detected it on their property. Your animals have to go as well. So you can imagine the devastation that this has. Now with Ceres Tag, we can actually not only just detect when an animal is down, but we can actually then assist with how those animals interacted. If they're all got Ceres tags on them, how they've interacted. We could actually save millions of animals with this. And the photo below is a disease called lumpy skin, also currently in Indonesia. In fact, it's probably one of the fastest growing diseases for beef in the world right now. There's no vaccine. Why is this one particularly interesting is it's vector-borne. That means it can be spread by mosquitoes and biting flies. This one, from ground zero, is a 50-kilometre radius for eradication. So having the ability to have that real-time alert and be able to interact with those different animals is critically important for our future. Not only does it cause economic harm, it causes welfare harm, and it causes social harm. So I want to show you a little example of how, using real data of ours, how we can determine which ones we could save and which ones you'd have to isolate. And of course, there are many other diseases like mad cow disease, African swine fever, the list goes on. The importance to have this monitoring today is paramount. So here's a little video of one of our software partners who have built the simulation.
Animals are getting moved, which means that, so now there's a couple of animals in the incubation period there, and then all that lot there just got infected. And also some animals got moved down here. So I'll just sort of wind that back a bit. So there's a bunch of animals that get zipped across here. And now all of those guys get infected. So, if you were the manager of this property, you think, if I really want to minimise my risk of cross-contamination, start asking yourself the question, did that really need to move from there to there?
So you can see the red ones are contaminated, the orange ones have been exposed. The green ones are not, even though they're in a range that would probably have to be normally destroyed, we can actually save them. And these are experts that can actually come in and set what the parameters are. It's not Ceres Tag, we're just providing the data. But AWS and their real-time ability to provide that data to our customers through their systems can make a significant difference in the world, not just economically, socially, and animal welfare. So that's an extremely important way in which we can make a difference. I talked previously about breakout. Doesn't have to be complex. Here's two examples, one in Queensland, Australia, one in Montana. By the way, our first customer was in Montana, even though we're an Australian company. Here, the animals broke out of their geofence area. They were using the tags in a sentinel approach, so they didn't have them on every animal. That's one of the key beauties of this particular platform. You don't have to have it on every animal. It's preferable, but it's not absolute. So in this case, they actually only had it on 10% of their animals, the Ceres tags. So they got an alert outside of the geofence area, had to investigate. They sent some resources, some guys on some horses. It was up in high country, so it wasn't actually easy to get to, so that's why they were on the horses. When they got up there, they found they actually had about 40 or 50 animals out, but they'd only had 3 that pinged. So in both cases, they'd actually had storms the night before, trees had knocked the fence over. They were able to round those animals back up, push them back in where they're supposed to, fix the fence. Presto. We've just saved them $150,000. But more importantly, for those particular customers, they had high value Angus. So their genetics, their 10 years of genetics that they've been building up, they were able to save that as well. Now, sometimes the animals get out intentionally. So someone comes and thinks that they'll permanently borrow them. In this case, we've been working with the authorities around the world, and I'm just going to show you a little video of what's been happening.
So coming off the back of the New South Wales Farm Crime Survey, which indicated once again that stock theft is a serious problem for farmers.
It impacts with the ability to solve these crimes is a significant delay in the reporting of the crime. Any forensic opportunities that you have are well and truly gone. The ability to canvass the area is well and truly gone. And the recovering of the stock, the reality is it could be eaten on the other side of the world by the time it is actually reported.
Again, it's the first test in the world for the prevention and reduction of livestock theft, but the tags are available to farmers at this stage.
We're going to go in and round the sheep up. As soon as they break this fence barrier, which is set up as a virtual fence line, we'll get an alert to say animals have broken the barrier.
So here's the geofence. You can see this red outline here. And these green dots there are the sheep themselves. And so once the satellites fly over again and provide some data, packets and information, it should tell us that the sheep have in fact breached this geofence and are in the process of being stolen, as we've seen. No, so it'll send an alert directly through to the farmer. I have it set up to go to my phone as well as to my email. I can then make this data publicly accessible and available to the police in real time. So I can send them a link that they can then open up and they will see the data continuously coming through. Farmers are going to be using this tool and law enforcement officers are going to be using this tool to intervene. So the fact that we've got the world-class rural crime prevention team here with us today to actually utilize this data to intervene in this offense in a real-world practice scenario is worth its weight in gold.
In fact, we can pick up the thieves within 23 minutes before they even leave the property, just through the increased activity that sends an alert that something is happening. And through the software you saw, they can send a link directly to the police, to their central command, and they can deploy the resources. In this particular instance, they were travelling about 100 kilometres. We picked the thieves up 4 times in that distance. The police that were involved had no idea what was going on, but we had to let them know before they pulled them up in case they pulled guns. So that was an interesting exercise. Now, climate change is something that's happening everywhere. We're getting more floods, more droughts, more bushfires. How do we know where our animals are in relation to those? Well, you can see some in Australia, we're actually in La Nina, so we're getting a hell of a lot of floods, and you can see there on the bottom left-hand side, what are the consequences of that? Not only do we lose animals, but we don't know who they belong to, which is other problematic things as well, particularly for a country that's got mandated identification of every single animal. So that's becoming an issue. In fact, we had one issue where one of our customers, a 1 million acre property, they could see a bushfire in the distance, and they were able to see where the animals were, and they found that they were very close to where that bushfire was occurring. They were able to ride out there, cut the wires, get them out of danger. They saved about 1,000 head of cattle at about $2,000 each. That's $2 million of cattle in which they saved from that particular instance. Of course, it's not just natural disasters, but it's invasive species that are actually starting to attack our animal. Invasive species are growing more and more every day. So things like wild boar, or we call them feral pigs, things like wild dogs, wild camels, donkeys, buffalo, the list goes on. We need to actually tag those as well because they're breeding out of control. And if you don't get control of those, what will happen is that interaction with the production animals. But sometimes they're actually native animals that interact. So I think that in South America, for instance, like jaguars, and in Africa, lions that actually attack the livestock, causes conflict between the conservationists and the producers. So if we can understand where the animals are moving in relation to each other, we can avoid some of that human-to-human conflict that consequently occurs from that as well. So knowledge is power, and being able to do things about it. Now, understanding where the animals are utilising the land, here you can see on the right-hand side where the animals have been located, and you can see the heat map intensity of the usage of different paddocks with the animals on it. Now, from that, we're able to prove that the animals are being moved to a different paddock. So you can see on the left-hand side, the pink areas are where it's already been grazed down to its minimum. So you don't want to overgraze, but you certainly want to utilise all the grass that you possibly can on a particular paddock. So then you move it to a new area and let those grasses regenerate. And so by doing, you're actually sequestrating carbon into those grasses and into the roots of those grasses as well. From that, you can claim carbon credits. Not only that, but it's just good land management to do so. So these are the type of knowledge, and this is overlaid with another software of ours called SIBO Labs. And we're working with these guys also to prove deforest-free beef. The retailers like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, they all have ESG requirements to say, we're not taking we're not taking animals out of deforested areas. So it's an increasingly important ESG component of it, and it's all to do with sustainability if we're going to leave the planet in a better way than what we received it. So these are incredibly important information that we're able to derive from the use of CERIS tags. I'm going to give you some examples now. It's just a few pages. I'll go through them as quickly as I can. The top one is the Swiss government, actually one of our biggest customers. What they want to do is be able to automate all of this identification. So it actually is less impost on the actual farmer by enabling them to use this particular information and having that automated reporting back to them. So all they have to do is put the tag on, and then they don't have to worry about it anymore. But the other thing that the Swiss are doing is sustainability is very important to them and their ethos. And they want to show that the animals are spending a certain amount of time outside compared to the time that's in a barn. And by doing so, they can charge more for their chocolates, their cheeses, and show all of those sustainability aspects. Now, some of the ranches that exist in Australia and South America, and some certainly here in the US, they're very, very large. So they may see the animals like once a year because we're talking about millions of acres. So in Australia, what happens with the particular customer that we're in the middle there is they release the animals, but they don't know what's happening to them in between the times in which they then round them up. So they're giving birth. Now, when they're giving birth, there's invasive species like wild dogs that might eat the calf, or they might get a disease. We don't know. And this is part of the problem with the way in which things happen at the moment. Aileron Pastoral is actually one of the ones that is the customer that had the bushfire, but also they found, that's a 1 million acre property, by the way. They found new sources of water because they had tags on animals. They found the animals going back to the same location daily, and they couldn't establish why that was the case. So they went out and had a look at that location, and they found a new water source. Extremely important in outback Australia where it's super dry. Charles Sturt University detected a problem with one of their cows, again, high value Angus, and what they did is went out and inspected it. They found pink eye, and they were able to remove that animal before it became contagious to the rest of the herd. Probably about $1 million saving to those animals as well. A smaller producer, Barabun, they had floods, and they were able to move their animals to safe area, similar to the one below in Montana. Macca's high quality beef. If anyone's flown Qantas, it's Macca's beef in which you're actually eating on the plane. Now, for him, his branding is extremely important. He wants to prove that the animals have come from his property and they've had good welfare. And that's exactly what Mac is able to do with the use of the Ceres tag. So he uses it for marketing purposes and improves what he does. And through doing so and watching what he's doing, we've developed our own Ceres authenticated brand as well. In the middle one, the South Africa, they use it like a security alert. So when someone comes onto their property and starts to round up the cattle, they actually know that it's not going to be safe for their families. So they move their families into safe areas based on the fact that that activity could translate into interaction with their own families as well. In Brazil, of course, Amazon. It's all about the Amazon. So for their deforest-free beef and showing that the beef is not coming out of deforested Amazon areas is critically important for their customers too. The UK. This is where they're using the Ceres tags to monitor the regenerative use of the land and allowing new grasses to grow. So moving them off one paddock and onto another paddock. They're getting grasses that are appearing that haven't appeared for over 50 years, just through better land management. And why that's increasingly important is for the biodiversity. Biodiversity is going to become more and more important as things go along. The bottom one, Ceres tags got through CSIRO, pasture feed intake. Again, we'll be able to start breeding more efficient animals. So through the pasture feed intake, not only are we measuring the dry matter that's actually they're consuming and comparing that to the weight that it's gaining, which is you want the ones that are eating the least to put the most weight on, which is a phenotype trait. We can start doing the genetic selection. But also part of the pasture feed intake algorithms is one called rumination. So you want ones that have got better rumination than others because you probably heard about cows burping and creating the methane. Well, we can actually determine which ones are more efficiently converting to emit less methane. In New Zealand, they had a disease called Mycoplasma bovis. Not quite like foot and mouth, but still it was a great example how they had to put over 100,000 of their cattle down, and it caused incredible damage to their productivity as well. And they could have avoided all of that if Ceres tags had been on there. In Canada, they've got properties all over the place, big country, and they've got 1,000 acres here, 1,000 acres there, and they might be 100 to 200 kilometres apart. In winter, it's very hard to get around. So do they need to get around? So there it's playing a safety part as well. So if they know that those animals are performing well, that they're safe, then they don't need to go and inspect them anymore. In fact, in British Columbia, they get $300 if they can show that an animal has been attacked. So we can prove that the animal has actually gone down without even having to leave their homestead. And the bottom one, I'll leave you with this one. Absentee farmers. There's about 500,000 of them here in the US. This one, though, was in Sydney, Australia, but their property was about 200 kilometres away. During COVID time, they couldn't get around. They couldn't get to their property. So they had Ceres tags on their prized Scottish Highland cattle. And when the animal was about to give birth, they got the alert because of the change of activity that was actually happening, and their neighbour was able to then go and inspect it. And fortunately they did, because the cow was having trouble with that calving. They were able to pull this calf out and saved both the mother and the calf. So I just thought I'd leave you with that pretty one. Now, we've been growing at a fairly rapid rate. We went commercial after 4.5 years of R&D and efficacy testing. And now we're operating in 25 countries around the world and over 30 species of animals. Not bad since May 2021. So we're on a significant growth path at the moment, and we're becoming more and more active right here in the US. Now, some of the last slides, I'm just going to move now from production to wildlife. Extinction of animals is still happening. There's only like 14,000 giraffes left in the world. And in black and white rhinos, well, poaching has picked up, unfortunately, since COVID. And there could be all sorts of reasons why that's the case. But even taking out the poaching, understanding those particular beautiful animals and how they utilise the land is incredibly important. And to be able to do it in a non-invasive way on the animal, and to do it in an unlimited range for researchers and conservationists is incredibly important. So I want to play you a video. This is a particular game park that we work with. We're working with dozens of them, by the way, throughout Africa, Australia, South America. But this one in particular holds a very special place with us, and we're working with them all the time to improve things more and more. So I hope you enjoy this.
I'm Sarah Clegg, and I'm an ecologist here at Malulangwe Wildlife Reserve. For many years, we've been searching for a tracking device that's affordable, reliable, and small, and many other people in our line of work are also searching for something like this, because amongst other things, we need to track how our wildlife use the landscape. We need to find out where the key resource areas are for specific species, and we can do this if we know where an animal is located and if we can link this to site-specific environmental variables. It will give us this level of detail. So this is why we're trialing the Ceres tag here at Malulangwe. We're going to try it on a number of species, including black rhino, white rhino, and buffalo. The tags are solar-powered satellite tracking devices, and they are lightweight, as you can. For the buffalo, we want to track the movements of the big herds. We want to understand how they're using the landscape. And so the best animal to tag is an adult cow, because it tends to stay with the herd. The bulls tend to move away as they mature. Once the animal's down, we'll move to apply the tag to the ear, just as we would with a cow. The 2 pins that are used to attach the tag to the ear are sterilized, and then we'll check to make sure that the device has been activated.
Back 2/3 of the ear, right? Yeah.
The whole procedure is very quick, and usually we find that the herd hangs around. For the rhino, we're interested in detailed habitat use, both during the day and the night. So the Cirrus wild tag's ideal for this because it's capable of recording 24 pixels per day. But for the rhino, we won't attach the tag to the ear because rhino are very rough on their ears and it'll tear out. So we're going to modify the tag to insert it into the horn. Rhino's horns are composed primarily of a substance called keratin, which is the same as what our nails are made of. There are no nerve endings in the horn, which makes it an ideal place to mount a tracking device. We'll start off by placing a paper template on which we've drawn the outline of the Cirrus tag and the drilling spheres so that we can see exactly where to start drilling. We'll use a spade bit to mark those positions, which will then be used to drill out using the Forstner bit. Once the cavity's been excavated, we'll place the tag into it, making sure that it has a snug fit. And you'll see that the front of the tag has been covered with masking tape just to protect the solar panel during the operation. A homemade PVC base plate is used to screw the tag into the horn at an angle away from the base of the horn, making sure that you don't screw or drill below 2 centimeters from the base of the back horn and not below 7.5 centimeters from the base of the front horn. This is to make sure that you avoid the growth plate of the horn. 2 holes are drilled in from the side of the horn into the cavity, and these are used to administer the adhesive. In this case, we're using hoof repair adhesive, which sets very quickly. And as soon as it's set, we'll remove the protective masking tape and shave off any excess glue that might have spilled. Be particularly careful that we expose the solar panel and the Cirrus logo because the antenna is located under it. To understand what they need.
Thanks.
The whole operation takes about 40 minutes from start to finish, and once the reversal drug is given, it takes about a minute for the rhino to stand up and on his way to provide us with invaluable data that will help us to understand what these very special species need and how we can provide them with those needs. It's been 2 months since we fitted the tags to buffalo and rhino, and as one might expect, results from each tag have been variable, and a lot depends on how the animal moves, where it moves, topographic position that it's in. So this shows the movements of a black rhino and a white rhino with Cirrus wild tags, shown with the white and yellow lines. And you can see very clearly how the rhino's territories show up. They're very defined. And if you look at the movement of the red point, which is the movement of a buffalo with the Cirrus trace tag, you can see how it uses the landscape. The great thing is that the technology is improving every day, and so we can expect things to improve. This data is fantastic.
On the pet side, we're working closely on the human side and the animal side, not just how the animal is, but also that interaction with an app that gives us that information. And I won't say too much about it, but it's pretty exciting stuff when we do release it in the middle of next year, with already many pet companies very interested in what we're able to achieve. But I want to thank everyone for listening today, and I want to thank AWS especially, because it's without their sophisticated systems that we use throughout our data platform that has enabled us to achieve such great things for animals. Thank you very much.